What up, people? This is Baze Radio, and you're hanging with me, Maria, all the way till 12 on the T. And as we're about to get into it, conversation is about to kick off right about now with my guest, Kasiva Mutua.
Beep, 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 beep.
Okay. Done that thing. Imagine seeing an effects box. Like, this is unfair. This is so unfair. But now that you've got me where I'm going.
Baze Radio.
Good thing. You see, we have a percussionist in the house. Clearly, she knows how to spin things and make it work for us. But before we get there, Kasiva, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me.
Child, I like that before we pressed record, we've had like 99 conversations prior. But we'll kind of sip them back into this conversation.
Absolutely.
But before we get to this point that you've gotten to, I think it's only right that we get to understand who was Kasiva growing up, what were some of your interests that led you to this point, and let's start from there. So
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
Anytime.
My name is Kasiva Mutua. I describe myself as a Kenyan, a woman, many things. I am passionate about women's spaces. I am a percussionist, singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer, TED fellow, big fan of Mandamano.
Hey.
Mambo ni mengi.
before we proceed, actually, because I'm pretty sure there are guys who are probably hearing percussionist for the very yes.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
we might need to break down who and what is a percussionist.
Okay, cool. So a percussionist is somebody who plays percussion instruments. Percussion instruments are anything that you can beat or shake to produce a sound. For example, like a drum, like a shaker, a kayamba. There's a drum people call kidindi. Like that is percussion. That's percussion.
Clicking is percussion.
Clicking is percussion.
Bro, I'm a certified percussionist. I can give like 5 clicks in 1 second.
Yeah, like
Percussionist.
That is
I'm going to put
percussion.
that in my bio today.
Word.
Question.
Yes.
If you can make your bum clap, are you a percussionist?
You are a percussionist. Listen, if you can speak, if you have a heartbeat, you are a natural percussionist.
Listen.
So every living thing
Is
a percussionist.
Love it.
Clearly.
Love
so
it.
if you can clap, if you can snap, if you can
hum. Percussion.
That's
Nice.
percussion. All of that is
Nice.
percussion. And percussion, there's physical instruments. You can use your body. There's something called body percussion where you use your body to produce sounds. Something like that's percussion.
Crazy.
And that's me playing my cheeks, not those other cheeks, but like my cheeks, right?
Well, you decide. You decide. But I love that. I love that you've given a very elaborate definition and, even examples. I love that. But who and how was Kasiva growing up?
Yes.
And what led you to taking this route in your career?
Yes. So I grew up a very curious child, and I started playing drums and percussion, inspired by stories that my grandmother used to tell me.
Okay.
So she was a very, very good storyteller, and I'm named after her. Her name was Kasiva. And she would sit us by the fire in the evening and tell us stories. And since she was really, really dope at telling these stories, I'd always tell her to add some more. Afu alikuwa anachoka, she was old. So she found a way to stop me from asking for more. And so she'd be telling me a folktale and then tell me, "Hey, Kasiva, did you hear that?" And I'm like, "What? What's happening?" She's like, "Ebu, run to the cow pen. That white goat, your favorite goat, it's being told something by the black goat." I'm like, "What?" And then I run. So I go listen. Nothing. Come back, I'm like, "Ay, manze, mbona unacheza?" She's like, Rudy, it's happening now. You can't hear me, I can hear. So I go back, try listening more, come back, nothing. Then she tells me, "Go and keep quiet and stay longer." And so I go stay longer, like even an hour. So I'm really trying to listen to this secret, this udaku that's happening. And in the process of this, I started hearing sounds in my environment because I was really, really listening, almost to a meditative state, I would say. So I started hearing the animals breathing. There's the crickets ukombale because it was ushago.
Yeah.
I'd hear the fire crackling. I'd hear, my mom or somebody like laughing in the kitchen. The boys like footsteps, the hooves of the animals. And in these timeless spaces of sounds, I started hearing rhythm. And so when I'd be sent to bed, I would go and replicate what I was hearing. Wow. So I would replicate it in rhythm, but also in textures. So I'd beat my chest, my thighs, and also like rub, because that imitates the breath of what I was hearing. And, fast forward until today, I still use my environment to inspire rhythm, because there is so many sounds in our environment, only if we sit still and listen. So informed by already existent traditions that exist in, our countries and our spaces. Yeah. Imagine that plus all the sounds in the environment creates something new almost every second, every day for me. So my brain is a very interesting place to live in, because it's full of sounds and rhythms, and I'm always listening. Even now, as we do this interview, I'm hearing a generator. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And in this timelessness, you just cut a little bit of like time. And if you loop that almost becomes like a beat in layman's language. Yeah.
That is crazy.
I know. It is actually crazy. It is crazy.
But wait, now that you've said that, is it that your grandma had already spotted, like there was something about you that you had an interest in sounds, or was it just something that you can say was by mistake and it created something new?
I would not know. I wouldn't know. But whatever it is, okay, it's really working. Mm-hmm. I have never been like invested to know, because I was really tiny. So I didn't know if she spotted something. She might have seen something, or she might have just been doing that to give herself a break.
Okay.
Who will ever know?
Truly.
Yeah.
If we did that, okay. So that's where the birth of your percussionism starts.
Of the percussionist starts.
So from that point to now, where you are in your career.
Yeah.
What would you say has advanced and what would you say has changed?
Right.
Yes.
So growing up as a percussionist and playing, desks, sufurias, buckets in school, and onto music festivals where I competed in Kenya National Music Fests, and, starting out in bands like Kidum's band, playing with my very good friends Nairobi Horns Project, which is led by McKinley, the trumpet, aka Guinness World Record holder, Tererens, playing and backing numerous artists like, June Gashui, Fadili Itulia, Maya, and gracing stages like, the Safaricom Jazz Festival, BC Jazz Festival, Sauti za Busara, and, getting to travel the world and, immerse myself in collaborative spaces. I've come to really appreciate cultures and appreciate how different we are as people, as human beings, and what cultures mean to us. Because cultures are almost the foundation and the informant of our behaviors. True. And for me to be able to understand people better, I immerse myself in people's cultures. Because once you immerse yourself there, then you understand why people do what they do
and how they behave.
Right?
Yeah.
And immersing myself in people's cultures, I've come to discover very beautiful things about people, about their traditions, their cultures. And some of these cultures I have had to borrow because some things are just amazingly beautiful. When you get to travel and when you get to experience different cultures, you start realizing how intricately different and beautiful human beings are. For example, when I went to Egypt, I did a project in Egypt for a long time, and I used to go there every year for about 2 months. And when I started learning Arabic, I started realizing how beautiful our languages are. They're different, but very beautiful.
Yeah.
And, seeing the coffee culture and burning incense and understanding why people burn incense, the intricacies of taking time when you're making your food, the mosques and the call for prayer, and all these intricate things in the Egyptian culture. I borrowed some of these traditions and put them in my own traditions. And when I borrow these traditions, I borrow from everywhere. And now in music, I even borrow heavier because they have instruments that I don't have or I don't have access to, or instruments that I haven't grown up knowing. So they have like this drum called the tabla or the darbuka, which sounds very cool. It can be very loud and it can also be very soft. They have various percussion instruments that I have not seen, but have textures that really speak to my heart. So traveling like this and collecting percussion from all over the world has expanded my textures and my textures and my soundscapes, if I could say. And so borrowing that and learning these things has created it has created a Kasiva Pro Max, a Kasiva that knows her African cultures and then is borrowing from other cultures. So when you fuse that, you give birth to something that's so continental, something that feels you are sat in your living room, but you feel you've been transported to several parts of the world when you're listening to one piece of music, and that is my current project, the new album that just dropped that's called Desturi.
Amazing. We're about to get to that in just a few minutes.
Yes.
But you've been very vocal about women representation and how they are supposed to be represented in music. What would you say so far has changed in this scope? Because one, you're in a very male-dominated space. First of all, what are some of the challenges that you faced? And now that you're very vocal about advocating for women in music, what would you say are some of the changes that you've seen in this space?
Thanks for asking that question. I have been in the music space for about 2 decades now.
Nice.
And yeah, I've done my hours.
Yes, but bro, you've overpaid your dues, man.
I've done my hours. And when I was starting out, the space was very discriminatory, if that's a proper word. I remember when I was starting out kabisa, I would go to spaces where guys were having drum jam sessions. And I would sit there and I would not see a woman in sight. And one day, a guy asked me, "Why do you keep coming here?" I told him, because I really love drumming and I would love to join you guys. And he laughed and then he told the other guys, "Hey, majama, udema anadai kucheza ngoma. Ebu mpatie. And then they literally give me a drum and put me at the center. And then they tell me, "Okay, cheza basi. Si ucheze bas." And I'm like,
maybe another day.
Terrorens. For lack of a better word, it was not my best performance.
Yeah.
And it is the environment and the circumstances in which this drum was offered to me. And I realized there is a shortage of spaces that understand women because we are different in our makeup.
Yeah.
And women have a particular set of problems that are uniquely women, and men have a particular set of problems that are uniquely men.
Yeah.
And these challenges are informed by many things. They're informed by our physical DNA makeup.
Yeah.
They're informed by our cultures. They're informed by our societal laws.
Yeah.
They're informed by environment, and so on and so forth. And just observing how the space was and having these factors at the back of my mind, I realized it was not going to be an easy journey from the get-go. And so, struggling in the music industry for acceptance, first of all, because the space was clearly very male dominated at the time. It was very difficult to seep into financial spaces, I would say, the spaces in music that bear money.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as I kept working on my craft and introducing percussion into the corporate space, because it's something that wasn't there when I was entering the space, I found challenges because people would undercut my prices, and it's basically like just trying to
water it down.
to water it down or gonga me on the knee so that I would go down.
Yeah.
And I have been working tirelessly to try and quote unquote put a coat and tie on percussion, because this is the only way the corporate space will understand tradition. And it's a space that it's something that I have been challenged to look at in very many ways, and we can talk more about that next time. But long story short, the movements of women empowerment in the world, looking at movements in the world that have been led by women, seeing discoveries by women, have all contributed to changing perspectives and mind perspectives about women to the general population. And now it's easier to find women seeping into spaces that were male dominated. That's one. Second, I have had to be very intentional in creating spaces for women to exist, because I understand that women have a particular set of challenges. And in these spaces, we can be able to look at these challenges safely and without judgment, because this is very important. If you invite somebody into a space rather than challenging them into a space, as I was challenged in the little story that I told you, it changes the perspective, and it changes the whole approach into how you approach a particular thing. So, for example, I created or co-founded Motra Music, which means modern and traditional music, which is an all-female percussion collective and the first of its kind in Kenya, that teaches women the art of drumming, the art of rhythm. It teaches women our cultures and the whys in our cultures, teaches women the music business, and plugs them into the industry. So having these young girls come into Motra under my mentorship was quite a big challenge, because I realized it's a space that is not there, is much needed, and I didn't know what I was doing because I did not have an example above me. And it's a big responsibility being the person who starts something, because you're moving, everybody's looking at you,
yeah,
but you don't know what you're doing, and you're moving by grace. And in this sisterhood that we've created, I feel that I can go back and express my own challenges. I can go back and say, hey, majama leo nimecheza drums, niko na blisters mbaya. As opposed to kitambo, when I would feel shy or feel like I could not express myself to my male counterparts because utaniambia, hey, when is softy nini? Because it's something that has happened before. I've been called softy because I said I had blisters. But my need is to express that I had blisters because I need care.
Yeah.
And in these women's spaces, I find care. I find spaces that have empathy, spaces that have wholesomeness. And in these spaces, I find women thrive better because they have the necessary support and community. Another space that I found very important to create was a digital space or a virtual space to be able to reach more people. And this happened by fluke during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I started this virtual space called Vibe na Queen, which is, it started on Instagram as a space where I had conversations with women creatives to talk about women in music and the existence of the spaces of women in music, but also find solutions to the challenges that we find in the space. Because I find most platforms talk about the challenges, but then leave it hanging. So what are we doing? We need to find solutions. And Vibe Na Queen grew from Instagram, and I started finding funding to fund the project. And it's been very interesting to hear the perspectives of singers, rappers, guitarists, bass players, producers, and seeing how they interact with the space. The challenges are quite similar, but they are uniquely to their instruments and who they interact with in their spaces, because the art space is a vast space. So creating that space and understanding what women are going through and trying and finding those solutions by discussing and also inviting the Gen Pop to, air their views has been super interesting in seeing how this space is dynamically evolving. I have to say, things are so much better than the way they started. There's a huge transformation and huge change because of these, because of the movement of women empowerment, and because we are basically living in 2025 and people are more educated now, and there's equal spaces for men and women to exist and all genders. I find that we are all interacting more sensitively, but we are more awake to who we are and the opportunities that are around us. Back in the day, I was challenged into a space as a nobody, and now I'm able to advise people on what kind of percussion to buy, because people see the kind of work that I have put in, and they see that I have researched, and I've been given my flowers, and it's beautiful that I'm getting my flowers now while I'm here. And this even gives me more fire to keep inspiring people, to keep contributing to this space, because now it's really working. And I guess at this point, I just want to tell women who are looking into the art space, kujeni.
There's enough cake for everyone.
Yeah, it's a big pie. We can share it, and things are so much better now because now there's role models we can look at. There's examples we can look at. Not like our days when you would look around and you wouldn't find.
You're practically the only one.
You're the only one. And now there's multiple people to look at. So kujeni, don't be afraid. It's a beautiful space to exist in. You have to put in work like any other industry. You put in work, you get the results. Yeah.
Facts. Whew, I think we've gone too deep.
But that's not deep.
No, but I love it. I love that you're very elaborate and you know your stuff. I like that. But I think it's time we switch to the other side, which is your project.
My baby, Desturi.
Desturi.
Yeah,
First of all, that's a very unique name. Why Desturi?
Desturi. I love that name. Desturi. Desturi, the story. Come on.
Okay, I see the vision. Okay, I see the vision.
You see the vision?
I see the vision.
I'm with you. Desturi means traditions. And I started by saying our traditions inform our human behavior.
Yes.
And essentially then who we are as human beings and how we live with each other as human beings. Our existence or existence in general is something that I'm very passionate about. As I said, I'm a very, very curious. I was a very curious child. I'm still a very curious human being. And people's mannerisms and people's behaviors are something that really strike me. And when you dig deeper, these behaviors are informed by a lot of things. And the foundation and the core of these things is people's traditions. So desturi is something that you repeatedly do over a period of time in a community setting.
Yeah.
For example, you'll be talking to someone alafu usikie amekwambia kimila yetu kwa desturi yetu mwanamke hafai kukula shingo ya kuku. And you wonder and you realize in that home mademo akulangi shingo ya kuku ama gizzard. Na inaendelea hivyo mpaka somebody comes and challenges that desturi. And that means the behaviors and mannerisms of that home are shaped around these traditions. So I decided to explore tradition as a big theme into subdivisional themes of things that we do that are informed by our traditions and how these traditions are evolving. Because we are moving in, the world is moving. We're living in the AI era. I was born in an era where there were no mobile phones, and now
everyone practically has one.
Right? Like we are a very gifted generation because we've been born in the era of writing letters to
the era of emails,
to writing emails, to sending a voice note,
facts,
to AI, to robots,
to
people going to Mars. And we've seen it all. And we've seen the world evolving. And as the world evolves, our traditions evolve. And so that is the story of Desturi. All the tracks look at these themes, some of the themes that we deal with from in our day-to-day lives, and how these themes are evolving. So some of the themes in the story that I have looked at is, themes like African identity, how our identity is evolving, love. I've looked at female reproductive rights.
Nice.
I have looked at the theme of loss or death, and so much more. So the story looks at the core facets of what makes life life, and what makes us within that life. Yeah.
I like that. But as you actually were talking off before we got on, and you said something very key, that right now, the way the systems are placed, sometimes the consumers also are to blame with the performance of certain projects and whatnot.
Right.
But like you've just said, right now we're living in an era where, it's AI, if you've not captured my attention in 5 seconds, next scroll, things are very fast.
Yes.
And that means the faster things are, the shorter the attention span.
That's true.
So would you say in this era, consuming big projects is way more difficult than consuming like singles and whatnot?
I absolutely agree. Our attention span and our brains are evolving as we live in the era of technology and information. When somebody drops a single is about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
We are even making music that suits our brains now.
Yeah.
Remember Fela Kuti?
Yeah.
Fela Kuti would make a song that's like 14 minutes, and people would jam to that song, and that song would get millions and millions of hits. But now you make a 14-minute song.
Bruh, they left you at 2. Ain't nobody got their time.
That's true. And I'm actually seeing what we're talking about and looking at the numbers for the story. People start the album, and according to how the tracks are, the track that is
below
number 11
suffers the most
because people are not reaching there. And you don't I know why people are not reaching there, but there's nothing I can do because our brains are wired like that. I remember I was watching an interview and Beyonce said people are not releasing albums anymore, bodies of work. Because a body of work takes a lot of time to put together. The story was put together in 5 years. What? And I started, it's a 40-minute album, and it took me 5 years to put it together. And the work for the story started even before the 5 years. The research started 10 years ago, and then the story was written in 5 years. So put together, written, recorded, produced, mixed, mastered, and now it's available to you. All this whole process took 5 years. So it takes a lot of time to put together a body of work, and it takes patience. So once the consumer understands why the artist does this and the commitment behind a body of work, behind an album, I think people will start consuming better because people start consuming with intent, and understanding, and people start intentionally consuming because you understand that these 40 minutes have taken
5 years.
It's 5 years for this person.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, it is what it is in terms of our brain capacity and not being able to, process much. We're used to scrolling, and social media is so flashy, and it's adjusting and, I don't know, regrouping ourselves in our brains, and that's how we're becoming wired. But all in all, we need to re-educate ourselves about the things that matter most. And some of the things that matter most is art.
True.
Art is essential. Can you imagine life without art? God himself is an artist.
The best artist ever.
Exactly. So there is, I don't see a life without art. There's no life without art, because life itself is art. You as a person, your physicality is art.
True.
What you say is art. What you do, how you cook, the way you write, the way you talk, the way you walk, all that is art.
Truly.
So we have to re-educate ourselves and relearn the fundamentals of why we're here in existence. And when we start there, we're going to be able to rewire ourselves back to a safe space or a proper place where we have the patience of listening to bodies of work. We have patience of, farming food from top to harvest. We will have patience of making proper food, not eating canned goods.
True.
We will have patience of combing our hair and
taking your time.
I'm not saying nywele langu ni ngumu, nywele lako sio ngumu, ni wewe uipatie time.
Just love it. Love on it.
Ni wewe uipatie time na uielewe, and so on and so forth.
I like that. So 11 tracks. Which one would you say was the hardest to write or compile, and why?
So initially, this album was supposed to be 12 tracks.
Okay.
So the one track that we removed was the most difficult. And it's called Haleyo.
Okay.
And Haleyo is going to come out as a single, because I really love that song. Ni imetusumbua, and I'm like, I'll deal with you.
Yeah, we have to.
I want to know why ulinisumbua hivyo.
Yeah.
But one of the most difficult tracks to write was Shalala, which is track number 10.
Okay.
Shalala is a very big song, and just coming up with its arrangement was very challenging. I also have to say track number is it track number 3?
Amalemba?
Not Amali. Is it Mbio za Sakafu? Is
That's
track
4.
number 4. Yes. So track number 4 was also very difficult, because it's very personal and has a very heavy message. So not the production part, but the emotional part of it was difficult.
Quite heavy.
The thing about the story is some of the songs just came to me. Some I had to pull from other people.
Yeah.
The stories of the story, some are very personal, some are about people around me. And a body of, as I said, there's a lot of challenges in putting together a body of work.
Yeah.
But the challenges are so beautiful, because it's all human existence. It's telling true stories and turning these stories that you're being told into music that you can enjoy, but also educate yourself. Because I'm huge on producing art that triggers conversation, that triggers thoughts, that triggers, that makes you think. Because the function of art is to disrupt.
True.
And when I say to disrupt, I don't mean like fujo. Like
chaos.
Disruption is like, if you were sat and you were smiling,
disruption is why am I smiling?
Yes, why am I smiling? Disruption is how you were if you were just like, chilling and you start crying. That's disruption. If you were chilling and you start thinking, that's disruption. Art is supposed to disrupt. And the textures and everything in the story is currently really disrupting. I can tell because of the messages that people are sending me. So yes, let's keep disrupting.
Yeah. I love that. And also, now that this body of work is out, when people listen to it, what would you want them to take away from it? Other than disruption of, their norm, what would you want to be the biggest takeaway?
I would love people to take away desturi, which is traditions. This body of work is full of textures and colors that send you somewhere, and they uniquely send you somewhere. I have not found even one person who's not told me that their story makes them feel a particular type of way.
True.
And so what I would love people to take home is the beauty of our cultures. Our cultures are so beautiful, and once we go back into re-examining them, we truly find who we are. Even as we evolve, we still find ourselves within our cultures.
True.
This is what I'd love people to take away. Listen to the album, listen to the textures, listen to the chanting, listen to the message in the music, listen to the guitars, the rhythms, and where they take you. Go there, because that is true. It is something that is... it is a reflection of what you're hearing, is a reflection of who you are, and there's a part of you that belongs in your traditions. That's what I would love people to take home.
I like that. No, I don't even want to talk too much. I think at this point is that time where we agree that The Story is an amazing album. At least I've managed to hear like 4 tracks so far. Usijalisini wale tulifika number 4 and we were like, we shall return.
Absolutely.
We shall return.
Take your time.
But clearly you've started 2025 with a big bang. So what is the rest of the year looking like for you? Is there any more projects that we should, other than the other track that you're about to drop, what other things are we expecting to see from Kasiva this year?
So we've already started on the physical gigs. I just came back 2 weeks ago. I was in Sauti za Busara in Zanzibar.
Nice.
And that's one of the biggest festivals on the continent.
Love that.
And I was playing there alongside Tandiswa, alongside Asama Tuse, and some amazing African acts. There is a lot of more physical live performances, of course, around. We are going to be touring in the summer. We will be in Europe. When I say we, is my band and I.
I love that.
And just before summer, I am going to drop another album.
I love that.
It's a lot to do in 1 year, but I have been doing a collaborative album, and project with a Norwegian electronic music producer called Bunt. We call him Banje. And Bunt and I have a body of work that's incoming. Very beautiful, very almost like, I would call it African electrofusion. It's very beautiful. That's incoming. And writing more music, of course, because same time next year, inshallah, I think I'm going to drop another album.
Woohoo!
So it's going
back
to be
back.
It's going to be back to back. So birthing music after music after music. So just finding a delicate balance between producing music, performing said music, collaborating, and just drinking water and being there.
I love it. Goodness, Kasiva, thank you so much for coming through. This was amazing. We can't wait to have you yet again.
Asante sana.
Actually, now that you've said you're dropping another project, when you drop it, you know where to come.
Same.
But that time the conversation we won't even talk about all this that we've discussed today. We will vibe it out. Do we have a deal?
Absolutely. No, to Tarudi. And
Yes.
I'll let Anyiko know. Shout out to Anyiko for making it happen. Yeah, I'll let her know and we'll be back.
Yay!
Baze Radio is the best one.
Period. Well, please, before we leave, please let us know where we can find you on social media. Please drop them.
Absolutely. So, as I said, my name is Kasiva, Kasiva. Kasiva. Think of cassava and you'll remember. Kasiva Mutua on all social media platforms. Super engaging on Instagram particularly. So let's find each other there. My website is kasivamutua.com.
Love that.
And my YouTube channel is Kasiva Mutua. Go there, you're going to find a bomb music video for Ndi Kwetela, which is one of the songs
on the album. And
Twendembele too. And subscribe because
there's more coming.
As in
we cooking, baby.
We cooking and baking. Yes.
Well, hey, before we shut it down, you said you had to give us an acoustic version.
That's songs. True. Yeah, I have my guitar here called
Yo,
Mwende.
baby, what's she called?
Mwende. Which means the loved one.
Beautiful. Clearly, she's the one who made it to the studio. Clearly.
All right, I'm going to play Twendembele.
Okay.
Let me just adjust my microphone. baba twende mbele tuneze tuwe. Songa mbele Afrika bebe. Timu wa mbio teketeza yote. Twende mbele tuneze tuwe. Songa mbele Afrika yangu. Timu wa mbio teketeza yote. Twende mbele tuneze tuwe. Kijivuta vuta baba bebe vuta chelewa. Kijivuta vuta baba bebe vuta chelewa. Twende mbele tuneze tuwe. Kijivuta vuta baba bebe vuta chelewa. Kijivuta vuta baba bebe vuta chelewa. Kijivuta vuta baba bebe vuta chelewa.
This is Baze Radio.
We are 254 to the core.